All right, what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Welcome back here today to episode 5 now of the Just Ballin' podcast. I got kind of a wide variety of topics that I want to talk with you guys today about. So, over the weekend, obviously, it was really big. You guys did already see a podcast episode that I recorded before All-Star Weekend, but you guys just kind of saw it maybe yesterday or 2 days ago, depending on when this came out, that you're listening to it. So I went over kind of every NBA team, went through contenders and pretenders. I was kind of going through it. Looking back on it, I feel like I should have made maybe the Timberwolves a contender as well, and maybe I honestly think looking back on it, maybe the Timberwolves a contender over the Thunder. So I wanted to just kind of mention that before we get into this. So I wanted to kind of react to All-Star Weekend. I want to react to basically the three-point contest, dunk contest, Steph versus Serena, the All-Star game, maybe some thoughts on what Adam Silver has kind of commented on over the weekend as well. And then I also, I'm just going to talk about it right now before this. I went to Montverde Academy versus Long Island Lutheran, Luhigh, on Friday night at Hofstra University. It's I guess a smaller college. I mean, I'm sure you guys, maybe some of you have heard of it, especially if you're kind of in the Northeast. It's on Long Island. It's like very close to where I grew up, and I watched the number 1 high school team in the country in Montverde go up against number 2 in Luhigh, and I have some thoughts because you guys know me. I love the draft. I love the college basketball. I love kind of that just evolution and development that you see the next stars of today's NBA, what they were, I guess, at their kind of youngest stage of a national level. So you may have heard of him, Cooper Flagg. He's the number 1 recruit going into the 2024 college class. He'll be the probably favorite to go number 1 in the 2025 NBA draft. He plays for Montverde. Montverde also has the 10th, 11th, and 12th prospects too. Best high school prospects. Derek Queen, I believe is 10, and he's undecided. He's either 9 or 10. He's undecided right now. Maryland, I think, is giving him an offer. I think Indiana's giving him an offer. It's still TBD at Kansas. May pick him up as well. There's Liam McNeely, who is an absolute sharpshooter in this game. He's committed to Indiana. There's Asanuo, who I believe is committed to Georgia. He played in this game. He came off the bench for Montverde. And then they had a guard named Givens. He's, I think, like the 45th ranked prospect around there, and he's going to LSU. So, yeah, we saw a ton of talent on the Montverde side, and Luhigh has the number 4th prospect in the country for college basketball, and that is VJ Edgecombe, and he is committed to Baylor. So I've never seen a high school game on this stage, and it was pretty cool. This was kind of like the Gold Star Game of the Year. Basically, it was the Bob McKillop Invitational. He was the head coach of Davidson when Steph Curry was there, and he's got some Long Island ties as well. He coached, I believe, at Long Island Lutheran, and he spent obviously a lot of time at Davidson. So it was really cool watching this game, and it definitely seems like Cooper Flagg is just on another level than some of these prospects. I know that Edgecombe and Flagg had a really good rivalry in like the EYBL Nike Summit last year, or kind of their high school games, and Flagg kind of dominated. Obviously, he's on the much better team, and like I said, McNeely, kid is like an insane spot up shooter and has such like a nice jumper for somebody that's basically a senior in high school. Derek Queen, biggest dude on the floor, probably one of the best big man high school kids in the country, probably the best big man high school kid, up there with Ace Bailey, who's committed to Rutgers. He was just dominant inside as well. But Cooper Flagg, man, he had this one ankle breaker into a 3, knocked that down. Alley-oop off an inbound. Another dunk he had that is just like, wow, this kid is insane. And he just does not look phased at all either. It just looks like it's so natural to him, and he's just very calm on the court. And VJ Edgecombe struggled in this game. And obviously when you're going up against the number 1 high school team in the country, it's very tough, and Montverde ended up winning by 30 in this game. It just shows you the talent gap, the skill gap between the number 1 and number 2 teams in the nation for high school basketball. And Edgecombe is insanely athletic. The kid's insanely athletic. Definitely has some kind of jumper things. And honestly, the mannerisms and his body language really wasn't great either. I guess I feel like some turnovers, loose balls. Really didn't hustle down the end of the floor, and you could see he was getting visibly frustrated in this game, but definitely has insane potential, and I'm very excited to watch him in the Big 12 at Baylor. If you guys are watching on YouTube, I mean, I'll just show like a clip or just kind of a video that I took there just to like show you kind of like what the environment looked like. It's not like an insane gym or anything, but they had a bunch of high school games. I couldn't go to the Saturday games because I was snowboarding that day, but they played again against like Brewster. and then some other Holy Trinity and some other high schools as well in Chaminade, which is on Long Island as a Catholic school. So that was really cool. We're going to watch those prospects next year. And everyone's saying, like, college basketball does not have that number one guy that makes it so exciting. Like, obviously, the most exciting college prospect right now is in the women's side in Caitlin Clark. Obviously, she's insane. But yeah, we haven't had really somebody since like Zion Williamson in 2019. That's probably going to be Cooper Flagg next year because he's going to Duke. He's the number one prospect, and he's the early favorite to go in the NBA draft. And he's going to be very exciting to watch. Like I said, VJ Edgecombe is going 4. He's the 4th ranked prospect. He's going to Baylor. And then you have Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper both going to Rutgers. It's going to be an exciting college class next year for sure. Maybe some of these guys end up decommitting and going to G League Ignite, which can kind of segue us into the next point. But right now, it's looking good, and then there'll be their fair share of international prospects. So very excited for kind of the next wave of basketball, and it was really fun to be at. If you have a chance to go to one of these games, if you could see a Brewster or a Vuhai or a Montverde or an IMG Academy or somebody like that, Chino Hills if you're on the West Coast, it's definitely cool environments and atmospheres as well, just kind of seeing all these kids that have so much pressure on them but still playing extremely well basketball for when you're 16, 17. I mean, when I played like that, I was very like unorthodox and chaotic, and it's very kind of slowed down for them. So it's cool to see how advanced they are in their basketball development at such a young age. So, yeah, kind of over the weekend, Adam Silver kind of came out and mentioned how the G League Ignite is not what they wanted it to be, and they may look to explore other options with it. Obviously, with the NIL coming into effect, it really isn't showing the, I guess, pros that it had before that, because obviously this would give an outlet for high school players that could get paid. They can get a lump sum of $200K, $400K, $500K to go play with NBA caliber player development in the G League Ignite. But the Ignite has kind of been a flop. Their teams have not been competitive. Obviously, they're going up against guys that are fighting for roster spots on other G League teams that have had a more streamlined development in their careers, and they're also 10 years older than some of these prospects, like Ron Holland, Montes Buzelis, 18 years old. They're going up against 28, 30, 32-year-olds on a nightly basis, and they all kind of care about themselves at the end of the day, because obviously they care about their draft stock. That's why they're there, and a lot of these guys have been inefficient. We've seen guys like Jalen Green, Dyson Daniels, Scoot Henderson, struggle. Michael Foster struggle in the G League Ignite. And I guess like one like Marjan Beauchamp kind of elevated his stock, but it feels like everybody else that's played in the G League Ignite has either hurt their draft stock or it hasn't really changed. Like Scoot, I guess, was always the number 2 name adjacent to Victor Wembanyama, but he didn't really perform all that well in the Ignite, and that's why Brandon Miller kind of maybe overlapped him a little bit. And Ron Holland was the number 1 guy. He was the number 1 high school recruit. He was committed to Texas, decommitted to go to the G League Ignite, and he has struggled this year mightily. Like, he's been inefficient from downtown. He's got good decision making, but it seems like he has tunnel vision at times. And I wouldn't say he's a ball hog, but you don't want to look at his assist to turnover ratio. It's not great. Montes Buzelis has definitely struggled from downtown, but he did a nice showing at the Rising Stars game over the weekend. So it's going to be interesting to see if the G League Ignite takes a different route with the NBA. I mean, they're not going to partner up with college, but maybe they would do something similar to like the Overtime Elite, and maybe try to plant their foot into high school basketball a little bit more and streamline these kids to college. Or I don't know if there's going to be kind of a development. I think it's cool that there is a G League spot, but not going to lie, though, as a selfish college basketball fan, it would be dope if we saw guys like Ethan Almanza, Tyler Smith, Montes Buzelis, and Ron Holland in college basketball this year. It would be exciting, objectively, for sure. And as much as you want to watch a G League Ignite, I mean, it's not as exciting. It's not, and this team is not great. I'm actually going to hopefully see them in person on March 5th on Long Island. They played the Nets G League team at the Nassau Coliseum. So I'm excited for that, but I'm going to kind of get up and close firsthand of how gross it's maybe been for the Ignite this season. So it's going to be interesting to see what they look like going forward. And then I guess some other events that obviously happened over the weekend. 3-point contest we could talk about first. Damian Lillard taking home the dub. I was watching on kind of low volume. I was watching it with my family, and I was kind of confused, like why there was 8 participants and there was 3 that advanced to the next round. I was like, 3's a weird number. And then there was only 1 final round. I don't know. I could be tripping, but I feel like in previous years there's been more than 2 rounds. I thought there's been maybe 3. Halliburton originally advanced along with Trae Young and Karl Anthony Towns, but Damian Lillard also got a 26. It was a 4-way tie for 26, so they all shot again, which seemed weird to do a tiebreaker. Why didn't you just send all of them to the final round? I guess they didn't. I don't know why they didn't just do that. Halliburton lost that tiebreaker And then Damian Lillard ended up winning the final round. So Damian Lillard, 3-point contest winner. It's funny because like going into All-Star Weekend, everybody was clowning Dame because he's been on a brutal stretch. I mean, I've talked about it in videos. I've tweeted about it that he's been struggling. The defense obviously hasn't been great, and he's been shooting not great from three or just from the field over his last 20 games. So it's been a decent sample size. And the dude probably had the best All-Star weekend out of anyone because he won the 3-point contest. And we'll get to it in a little bit, but he won All-Star MVP. So it was an incredible weekend for Damian Lillard. And he had an interesting he got asked like his dream starting five in the league. And he didn't put Giannis in it. So I'm sure people are going to definitely aggregate that on another level if the Bucks don't do anything this year. So Dame won the 3-point contest. Jalen Brunson, the guy I wanted it to win, obviously is a Knicks fan, didn't advance. He did all right, but he actually got off to a great start, but kind of choked it towards the end. I thought Malik Beasley might have done well, but it was a big weekend for the 3-point contest guys because also Karl-Anthony Towns had an incredible All-Star game performance, just shooting the ball wise, but also the rising star, the skills competition before, I should have talked about this, was honestly super entertaining. It was Team Pacers, so it was Halliburton, Miles Turner, and Benedict Mathurin going up against former number one picks. So Victor Wembanyama from 23, Paolo from 22, and Anthony Edwards from 20. And then they also had kind of team, I guess, All-Stars, which had Scotty Barnes, Maxey, and Trae Young, who were Eastern Conference All-Stars, all fairly young as well, as Trae Young was drafted in 2018, Maxey in 20, and then Barnes in 21. And it was comedy. Like, Barnes dribbled it off his foot in the first, dribble competition. Anthony Edwards took lefty threes. Barnes also had a half-court shot where he shot it backwards. That was, the worst attempt ever. The Pacers definitely, I think, tried the hardest, which I'm glad they did, and they should, and they ended up winning it. The passing competition was kind of funny. The half-court shot was funny. Honestly, it was entertaining. I enjoyed the skills competition and the 3-point contest the most of the weekend, and Steph versus Sabrina, which was honestly amazing. I thought it was really cool. I'm hoping they do this going forward. Just watching the probably the best WNBA shooter going up against the greatest NBA shooter of all time, possibly the greatest shooter in the history of anybody shooting a basketball. And Sabrina had an insane score. I think she got a 26, which would have been the tiebreaker or the score that Trae, Kat, and Lillard got, and they all advanced to the finals, and Halliburton as well. So she would have kind of matched that, and then Steph comes out, and honestly, dude, he's crazy. He has no stress, no anxiety. You know how much pressure? I'm sure he was nervous, but pressure to beat Sabrina and match her good score. And he comes out and he beats her. I think he got a 28 or a 29, and he ends up winning it. It was really cool. I'm hoping they do this every year. It would be cool if there was maybe a team aspect to it. Would they do Steph and Dame versus Sabrina and Caitlin Clark next year? Would they just do maybe Steph and Sabrina versus Dame and Caitlin Clark? A kind of a intergender team-based thing. That'd be kind of cool. They should definitely bring this back next year in some way, shape, or form and have another element to it. I think that would be really cool going forward. So I guess another kind of thing we could mention was the dunk contest. Obviously, the dunk contest has been getting terrible PR basically since Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon stole the show. Seems like a while now. What is it, 7 years ago, something like that. It consisted of 2 G League players, and Jacob Toppin and Mac McClung, who won it last year. Jaylen Brown, an All-NBA, All-Star caliber player, did it, which was really cool to see. And then there was also Jaime Jaquez, the rookie from the Miami Heat, also did it. So Jaquez started. He jumped over Shaq, kind of pushed down a little bit, but it was a good start. Jacob Toppin also had an incredible dunk. Jaylen Brown's first dunk was not anything crazy, honestly. It was just pretty average. I mean, it's something we've seen before. He paid homage to Dominique Wilkins, and then Mac McClung kind of got penalized for doing a reverse dunk where he threw the ball in the air a little bit and tapped it and then did the reverse dunk while also jumping over someone. So I don't know why they penalized for him failing it on the first dunk. The judges were also completely off on this because they penalized him for that. But then there was dunks later on where Jaylen Brown didn't do it his first time and did not get penalized. I don't know. Jacob Toppin definitely had better round one dunks than Jaylen Brown, and Brown advanced to the finals, and that's why it was a big thing on Twitter. I mean, I tweeted about it that is this rigged? Was this rigged for Jaylen Brown just to make it to the finals? Because I feel like everybody, at least on Twitter, had the same opinion that it should have been Jacob Toppin advancing to the finals, and it was Jaylen Brown. So when that happened, I was kind of like, let's see Jaylen Brown win this. I want an undeserving win here just because I want to see everybody freak out and say Max should have won it and Jaylen Brown shouldn't have won it. But Brown, I mean, he did a lefty hand dunk over with a glove. He dunked over Kai Cenat, who I think people say he's like 5'3". And he was sitting down too, so it wasn't even that impressive. I don't know why he didn't just dunk over him standing up if he was that short. So that was kind of weird. McClung had some good championship dunks. He ended up winning. I kind of felt bad for him though, because they asked him like, would he do it next year? And he kind of seemed fed up about it because he's killing it in the G League and he does not have a roster spot. And he played well when he was up last year for a little bit. So I feel bad for the guy too, just because he's a really good player and he wants to play in the NBA and he's been in the G League, but the NBA will call him up and ask him to do the dunk contest. And he's obviously going to like kind of oblige to it because he's probably getting paid from this. Obviously get a little bit of money and he's not making that much from the G League Ignite compared to what he'd be making at the NBA level. So he did that. Obviously, he's like still an incredible dunker, which is super cool to see. And I hope he gets a shot in the NBA because, I mean, at the end of the day, it sucks. Like Thanasis, who's terrible, he's probably the worst player in the NBA, is on a team because of obviously his brother Giannis Antetokounmpo. And like, I get that. I totally get that. I think it's super cool that Giannis looks out for his brother and gets him a roster spot. But it does suck at the end of the day that he's taking a roster spot over somebody that definitely deserves it a little bit more in Mac McClung. So, yeah, it wasn't great for the dunk contest. I don't know what you could do about it. Obviously, with like the internet, and we see all these crazy kids and like influencers or just people on the internet that you could see pull off these extreme dunks that obviously they're not in the NBA, but they have athleticism that's just absolute insanity. You kind of get numb to what's like insane about these dunks after all. Like somebody jumped, like Hami Haka jumped over Shaq, right? And everyone was like, all right, like we've seen it before. It's been done. But that is just an incredible thing that he just did. Even if he pushes down, like we saw Blake Griffin jump over the hood of a car. It was original, but he jumped over the hood. Like it's not that impressive compared to what everybody else can do. So it's just like we've seen a lot. Maybe if we saw like Anthony Edwards, John Morant, and some other guys do it, Zion, we could see some insane dunks and it would feel a little bit cooler that all-stars were in it. Because like once we saw like some of these guys that weren't all-stars like start to enter it, or just like bigger names, it definitely lost its lust a little bit because we saw guys like winning like we've seen Dwight Howard win, Blake Griffin win, I think. Nate Robinson won, and like Nate Robinson obviously was like a cool like spectacle for the dunk contest. Like Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon type like events too, and they weren't even like that huge of names, but they were still promising young players. Like Jacob Toppin has played in I think 1 or 2 games this year, and it's just because the Knicks have been down so many guys since they traded for Bojan, and they've had so many injuries. And Mac McClung has not played in the NBA this season. He's only played in the G League. So I think it would be cool if we got some bigger names in the dunk contest or they scrapped the idea in general. I really don't know what else you could do. I don't know what you'd replace the one-on-one tournament with. Would it be the All-Star game? Probably not. So it would be the dunk contest. The one-on-one tournament would be so much fun. I think that's something where you could take seriously. I don't think there'd be a cause for injuries that would happen in it, but obviously that's the one thing that holds back from people from trying 100% or maybe incorporating this is because you don't want to get injured in All-Star Weekend. Like that would just shut everything down, which would be kind of a shame. And we'll see. I mean, like we saw Chet like before he started his NBA career got hurt in like a pickup game. I think we can get maybe these guys to try at All-Star Weekend, which would be really cool. So the All-Star game happened last night. I'm recording this Monday night. You guys may see this on Tuesday or Wednesday. I watched the first 3 quarters of it. I was like, I'm going to bed on the 4th quarter. And Team East ended up blowing out Team West. Dame got All-Star Game MVP. And as much as I love Luka, he does not take it seriously whatsoever. He took that 3-quarter shot. I mean, it's funny. I'm glad. And you could definitely visibly see Adam Silver pissed about it at the end because he said it like he's very excited for the All-Star game, talked to the players, hyped them up, like wants to see it be competitive, and it just wasn't, and it hasn't in a while. And you're not going to really incentivize these guys with anything. Like nobody really cares about home court in the finals. Like, I mean, let's say like you're Scotty Barnes. Do you really care about home court in the finals? You're the Toronto Raptors. You're probably not even making the playoffs. Why would he care about that? Could it be a money thing? But do really fans want to see these guys play for money? How much money would you give out? And would they even still take it seriously if it's for an extra $500K? Would they need $5 million? And the NBA is not dishing out $100 million to get these players to take it seriously. So I don't really know what you could do. I know Bill Simmons said that you could just eliminate threes altogether, which It could help. It could help. Or you make threes count like at the end of the game. Maybe because when you get these guys playing in the half court, they're definitely going to try a little bit more on defense. They're not going to obviously close out. And if you can't space the floor as much, maybe we'll get a little bit more defense, which would be cool. I think if they brought back the Elam ending, that would be nice. We saw that in back in 2020, I believe it was. These guys actually trying a lot more because when there's a set score, they actually gave a crap on defense. So maybe we'll get that kind of incorporated next year, but I don't know how you can do that. Like, would they care about the first 3 quarters? Maybe you just make an Elam ending in every quarter. Maybe it's first team to 20 points in each quarter or something like that, or first team to 30 points in each quarter, and then that could get them to care about it a little bit more in each quarter specifically. So that would be kind of cool if they were to do that, and then maybe like, I don't know. Maybe that is a good idea. Maybe it's first team to 30 points each quarter. You put a set number out there. And if it's 2-2 at the end of the game, you go to a sudden death, like first team to 10 points or first team to 15 points or something like that. So I don't know. I came up with that on the spot. I think that would be kind of interesting. And I think you have to do it a little bit different than a timed no like score ending that it's been like a normal NBA game, because obviously these players don't care about it. And it would be cool if they took it seriously, because these are the 24 best players most of the time, obviously injuries aside, on the floor. Like, this is what like you could dream about, where you could see LeBron be on the same team with Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Steph Curry or KD on the floor going up against Dame, Giannis, Embiid if he's healthy, Tyrese Halliburton, and Jason Tatum. Like, that is what you kind of dream to think about, because this is what we could put in NBA 2K, and then you're kind of putting that into a reality. So if we ever got that, where we can actually see these guys go up against each other and try, it would be cool. But Adam Silver's going to have a lot worked out for him. I'm not sure what they could do to maybe make it as cool going forward. So we don't get any ball till Thursday. There are some good college games this week as well. Tuesday might already happen depending on when you see this, but I think I'm going to try to get this out on Tuesday, so you might get back-to-back podcast days. We got Creighton hosting UConn. That's going to be a really good game. 2 ranked teams. Obviously, UConn's the best team in the country. A couple of prospects as well. You're going to see Trey Alexander on Creighton go up against Stephon Castle and Donovan Clingan for UConn. And I still like Alex Caravan as maybe a late first, early second guy as well. So there are some good games. I'm recording this before Iowa State plays Houston. We're getting kind of close. Like, it's going to be here before you know it. March Madness, I think we're about 3-ish weeks away. A little bit more than 3 weeks away. I think 4 weeks from last Sunday. And then Selection Sunday. And then it's kind of like the best weekend of the year. So I'm very excited for that. I'm going to definitely want to talk about the draft a little bit more on this channel. I just kind of, or on this podcast, I just kind of wanted to talk about my reaction to All-Star Weekend. And I don't want to ramble on for too long just to kind of say stuff to say stuff. So I just kind of wanted to maybe talk about that for a little bit and what my thoughts and opinions were. Obviously, it was not a great weekend for maybe TNT. I know Kenny Smith took a lot of heat, said a lot of questionable stuff on Saturday. And then there was the Charles Barkley, Draymond Green back and forth on Sunday. I'm not going to get into any of that. It was just like, whenever I hear this stuff that these commentators do, I'm not somebody that's going to complain a lot or get upset for me specifically. But when they say something that I'm like, all right, you don't need to say that. Like, I think it was honestly very like dumb for what Kenny Smith said about Sabrina on Saturday. And even if you believe in that, which I'm not going to hate on you if you do, if you take his thoughts, why say that? Why cause up some controversy and make yourself just look worse? Just come on. It's 2024. You know, these things are going to either upset people or it's not going to really be universally liked. So, you know what, Kenny Smith, you probably didn't need to say a lot of stuff. And he was kind of like hating on a lot of people on Saturday. It was weird from him because he's known to be like a people like him, and he seems to like care about the sports. So it was weird. And then there was the back and forth between Draymond and Charles Barkley about San Francisco. I was watching it just so casually, the All-Star game. And then I accidentally cut to the alt-cast, or they showed the alt-cast on the main feed, because I was watching it on the main feed with Reggie Miller and Candace Parker. Draymond is like, can we get out of Indiana? It's cold or whatever. And then Charles Barkley's in San Fran next year. Yeah, like you can deal with your homeless crooks there. And it's like, what are you doing? Why do we got to? And then they were going back and forth on San Fran's like homeless. And it's like, all right, this is just, why do we got to hear this about this now? Like, whatever side of the fence you're on, this isn't the time or place to do this. So honestly, like when that stuff happens, I'm like laughing. I'm like, this is great. This is kind of funny at this point. It's comedy. So the weekend was kind of just all over the place with commentary. So yeah, it was not a good PR weekend for Kenny Smith at all. Draymond, I think, said a lot of stuff this weekend as well, because he wasn't participating in anything. But that's Draymond basically. But although all in all, I mean, I enjoyed the rising stars, because I enjoy a lot of those players. I mean, it's never going to be like taken 100% seriously, but like that's still cool because I care about like I think it's cool like looking at the next wave of NBA talent and the next generation of stars. The rising star, or excuse me, the skills competition was fun. Was weird. Kind of they change up how the scoring or kind of the challenges every year, but honestly, it was still entertaining nonetheless. 3-point contest is always going to be cool because they'll always care and they'll try, and it's very simple, and it's one of the best All-Star Weekend kind of things you can have up there with like the home run derby. The slant or Sabrina versus Steph, super dope. Hope they do some type of thing next year. If they run it back, they maybe Sabrina just wants a one-on-one rematch, or maybe there's Dame or Caitlin Clark or somebody like that involved. That would be really cool as well. Slam dunk contest, I mean, I'm still fine with it at the end of the day. I think also, like, I was a kid when, like, Nate Robinson won his, and I was very young when when Blake won his and when Dwight won his. So, like, that's all nostalgia to me, and it's never going to be the same. But I wonder if they will change anything. But I still don't mind it nowadays. We'll see kind of if they're gonna change anything next year. We'll see. I doubt they will. But it's kind of funny because like you look at old ones, all the stars were at the dunk contest. Like they were all there, video like or their like old phones, cell phones out, video recorders out, and it just seems like the stars aren't like not that many of them stay for the dunk contest, which definitely ruins the lust of it, and they always put it on last. So maybe they just put the 3-point contest on last and they put that on first or something like that. In the All-Star game, I mean, this was the first one I watched in a few years, honestly. And I hope they change it in some way, shape, or form, but we'll see next year if they will. Hope you guys did enjoy this episode. It was pretty much an All-Star game reaction or weekend reaction. And then I also wanted to talk about kind of my experience watching the number 1 high school prospect in Cooper Flagg go up against the number 4 high school prospect in VJ Edgecombe. And yeah, so I hope you guys did enjoy. If you're watching on YouTube, let me know what you guys thought of All-Star Weekend. Did you enjoy it? Did you have any gripes with it? Let me know in the comments. And then maybe drop a like if you guys did enjoy this. If I made your day go by a little bit quicker, subscribe to the YouTube if you're not already. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, it really means a lot if you're listening. Like, hope this can maybe make your drive to work or school or you're working out or anything like that go a little bit quicker. It definitely goes a long way, knowing you guys support it. So appreciate that on that end. Hope to kind of keep these coming out 2 to 3 times a week. Already have what I want to talk about. Next sneak peek basically did me predicting my top 20 players in the NBA in 5 years video on the Ross channel. So I think I want to talk about that and kind of read some comments. And if you guys convince me to change my thoughts and opinions on that as well. So that could be the next episode. So be on the lookout for that. And I'll catch you guys in that one. Peace out.